I'm Barbara Epstein, Director of the University of Pittsburgh's Health Sciences Library System, better known as HSLS. Our library offers support and collaboration for the university's 6 schools of the health sciences. In this inclusive environment, we offer a wide array of information services, educational opportunities, and resources in print and electronic format. Our virtual and online services are featured on the HSLS website, and our physical home of Falk Library provides spaces to study, collections and exhibits to engage our visitors, and day-to-day support for questions and assistance within the health sciences community. It's my privilege to introduce you to our featured historical collections from our Rare Books room.
The rare books and special collections at HSLS consist of more than 10,000 medical texts and artifacts published as early as 1496, as well as print and audiovisual materials of local interest, which span more recent decades. Founded in 1883 in conjunction with the chartering of Pitt School of Medicine, the library's collection began with contributions from the first faculty members of the school, and has grown to feature an international array of sought-source materials. Today's historical collection, housed in Falk Library at Scaife Hall on Pitt's Oakland campus, brings together rare books from the former libraries of Pitt's Schools of Medicine, Dental Medicine, Graduate School of Public Health, Nursing, Pharmacy, and the UPMC Western Psychiatric Institute and Clinic. The collection does not normally purchase new artifacts, but donations of private collections have contributed to the continued growth of this unique collection. The collection is available to students and faculty, as well as the public by appointment. In 2019, a new space was created in Falk Library to house the collection and ensure the preservation and longevity of the materials it contains. Dr. Gosha Fort, Head of Digital Resource Development, manages the organization, access, and preservation for rare book and special collections. In her role, she also oversees web-based and digital projects which increase the visibility of library historical collections. Gosha has been a part of HSLS for over 20 years and frequently shares collection highlights with the Pitt community through the HSLS Update newsletter. Today she will be featuring select items from the collection rarely seen by the public. We hope you enjoy this episode of Medical Treasures of the Health Sciences Library System. Episode 2. What is rare there?
Visitors to our rare book room frequently asked me this question. To answer it, one has to consider what the term rare book collection means. The simplistic definition, a collection of early prints, makes age of materials an important factor. For HSLS, all books published before 1800s are included in our rare collection. This is a widely accepted age range and includes books published from the beginning of print around 1440 to 1800s. These dates, however, are not accurate for all the countries. We know that the invention of movable print type happened earlier in China and Korea than in Europe. Also, the ending date might be different in some countries depending on their history. For instance, 1640 closes the range of early prints in England. However, the common characteristic of this period is the manual production of all the elements of bookmaking: paper, print type, illustrations, and binding. In addition to early prints hidden behind an extra door, our rare book reading room houses also all the 19th century books and those published before 1945. They form our medium rare collection, since with age, books can become too fragile to withstand the regular circulation, so we decided to protect them II. Taking the age of the book into account, I'd like to present the only incunabulum in our collection. Incunabula are the very early prints from 1440 to 1500s, when printers still tried to imitate the manuscript style. We are looking at the oldest book in Folk Library, Expositio in primam Fenquarti Canonis Avicennae de Febribus, from 1496. It is Giovanni Arcolani's commentary on fevers, explained in the first section of the fourth book of Avicenna's canon. Avicenna was an 11th century polymath, one of the most regarded thinkers of Islamic Golden Age, and the author of a multi-volume Canon Medicinae published in 1025. His book was a Bible of medicine. Once it was translated to Latin in 12th century and filtered through the writings of his commentators, Avicenna's medical thought entered the Western medicine and remained there as an authoritative source for centuries. The author of this commentary, Giovanni Arcolani, was a 15th century professor of medicine and surgery at Bologna. He was one of many translators and commentators who brought the medical genius of Avicenna into teaching medicine in European universities. Arcolani focused only on a small section of the Persian physician's work devoted to fevers, but he amplified explanations of Avicenna with personal observations and experiences. This commentary was printed in Venice by Bonetus Locatellus for one of the most prominent Venetian publishers, Octavianus Scotus, whose monogram appears on the last page. The book contains many examples of marginalia, handwritten notes by scholars studying Arcolani's text, including drawings of a small hand pointing to important passages. It has also fine capitals, decorated initial letters, and unusual binding. The book was rebound in a page of Gregorian chant on parchment, and the pages were cut in the process, so there is a minimal loss of marginalia in our copy. There are also other reasons why books can be considered rare. Monetary value is the next criterion of inclusion a title in our rare book collection. When a book is worth thousands of dollars, we are less likely to leave it on a shelf with free access. It is the asset which needs to be protected. I mentioned in the previous episode that the most valuable book in our collection is the first edition of Andrea Vesali's De Humani Corporis Fabrica Librorum. But today, I want to present a close contender to this title, Gaspare Tagliacozzi and his book De Curtorum Chirurgia per Insitionem from 1597. When Italian surgeon Gaspare Tagliacozzi published his treatise on nasal reconstruction, the Curtorum Chirurgia per Institutionem in Venice in 1597, the work became an immediate bestseller. Though some aspects of plastic surgeries were discussed by earlier authors, it was Tagliacozzi who combined the best medical knowledge of the day with the lifetime experience in perfecting the technique to give us the first book exclusively devoted to plastic surgery. He developed a new method of grafting a flap from the arm, not a forehead, that had short-lived popularity. 2 centuries later, the grafting method was revived in England and is still one of plastic surgery techniques used today. The most recent report of grafting a flap from the arm in nasal reconstruction in a young child comes from 2019. Tagliacozzi's book is a real gem. It has so many things that make an old book an object of beauty. Pretty font, interesting structure of a text, punctuated by initials and separated by decorative tail pieces, woodcuts illustrating the treatise, and the printer's mark. Also printed marginal notes, bi-color title page, an additional engraved title page, and a plain but beautiful and clean vellum binding. The provenance of this important book allures us. The identity of a former owner who left the signature, Doc Car Alfieri, cannot be established with certainty at this time. The paper and binding show some signs of aging and stress due to the past storage in too dry environment. However, considering that this book is more than 400 years old, it still has the power to dazzle the reader with its beauty. It is difficult to imagine any history of medicine collection without books strongly influencing future developments, such as seminal works, or without those simply changing how discipline develops. For such milestone-setting books, value nor age matters. They would be included based on their importance in the history of medicine. My next example is such a must-to-have book. We are looking at William Harvey's anatomical treatise on the movement of the heart and blood, Exercitatio Anatomica de Motu Cordis et Sanguinis, from 1648. William Harvey, physician to English kings James I and Charles I, is probably the best known for his work De Motu Cordis, published in Frankfurt in 1628. This book is considered to be one of the most important texts in the history of medicine. Physiologists before Harvey knew that blood is not a stationary fluid, but it was Harvey who clearly demonstrated for the first time that blood is pumped by the heart and moves in circular fashion. Vogue Library has a pocket-size edition of this famous work published in Netherlands in 1648. The book is only 12 centimeters tall and easily fits in the palm of your hand. It is bound in plain white vellum and has a brief handwritten title on the spine. It is of the bookbinding method called limp vellum. In this method, a text block is laced into folded vellum covers made from a single piece of smooth and durable mammal skin. Vellum, unlike leather, is bleached and not subjected to any tanning processes. In the 17th century, it was a simple and popular way of binding functional books. This style of cheap and temporary binding attracted a new wave of interest after the 1966 flood in Florence proved that vellum box bindings not only better survived, but they also offered a much better protection to the text block than leather bindings. Scarcity is another reason why a book may be considered rare. Some titles do not survive in many copies. Why? They could be published in a small run. They could be very popular and simply read to death. They could be cherished and protected, yet not impervious to wars and natural disasters. There is also cheap and ephemeral literature, published on occasion of some historical moment or event, and not meant to survive beyond it. The next example of a rare book from our collection is such a scarce copy. We are looking at the Lettres de Figaro au Comte Almaviva sur le magnétisme animal from Paris, 1784. Animal magnetism is a healing system based on the belief in the existence of a universal magnetic fluid that is central to the restoration and maintenance of health. The basic principles of Mesmer's idea were articulated in his Memoir sur la découverte du magnétisme animal of 1779. His ideas were not successful in gaining support from medical establishment, but were very popular with patients. At the urging of medical faculty in Paris in 1794, 2 royal commissions were constituted to investigate animal magnetism. Both produced unfavorable reports. These statements initiated a wave of tracts supporting or objecting to their conclusions. Among those works participating in the heated discussion, there is an interesting and rare pamphlet, Lettres de Figaro au Comte Almaviva sur le magnétisme animal. Neither Figaro or Count Almaviva are real people. The pamphlet was in fact written by a French physician from Lyon, Braque, who is known only by his last name. His letter was very popular and was issued several times in that year. The tract was written to serve in the campaign against animal magnetism. It was ephemera, focused on a hot topic in hand, short-lived, popular when needed, and tossed away when the interest in animal magnetism faded away. Consequently, it is quite scarce. There is a handful of copies of the second edition in the United States and France, but the first edition is very rare. 3 identified copies, one in Bibliothèque Nationale de France, one in the British Library, and one in the University of Oklahoma, are of the same variety. They are in octavo format. But the copy in the Folk Library is different. The text is the same, but the publisher was forced to make changes to the layout of the title page and the remaining text to fit the new duodecimo format. The paper has clear watermarks, easy to examine with a bare eye. The placement of those watermarks shows how the paper was folded and helps to determine the format of the book. Measurements might not be accurate sometimes, especially if the book was trimmed extensively during the binding process. The Folk Library's copy has also a stamp of the previous owner. It's truly rare. The next criterion of inclusion is uniqueness. It is fascinating to have an item that is like no other. Even for books which survive in multiple copies, annotations of previous owners, signatures, book plaques, or special bindings can make each copy different and unique. We are looking at publication that is neither that old nor particularly scarce, but our copy is simply unique. Friends of Friends, the field service of the American ambulance described by its members. Boston, 1916. In summer of 1914, Americans living in Paris founded the American Hospital and organized the American Ambulance of Paris, a volunteer service to transport the wounded from the French battlefields. In December of that year, the arrival of Harvard graduate Abram Piet Andrew expanded the scale of operations beyond France. He secured authorization from the French army for his ambulance units to serve with the French divisions at the front. He used American volunteers as drivers and cars donated by Americans to build an organization known as the American Field Service, which operated independently until 1917, before being incorporated into the U.S. Armed Forces. Friends of France was published in 1916 to document the history of the American Ambulance Field Service through the letters, narratives, and stories of first-year volunteers. The copy in Folk Library is a unique volume that includes personal memorabilia sent from the fields of France by William Henry Close Walker of Hingham, Massachusetts, to Harry W. Matthews. The handwritten letters and photographs are mounted on 26 added leaves of pages or held in a back cover pocket. The 11 letters from Walker to Matthews were written between December 16 of 1915 and May 13, 1916, during the first months of Walker's service as ambulance driver. His photographs capture the life and the surroundings of the Argonne Forest and Verdun, where the American Field Ambulance Unit operated in 1916 and 17. Most of the 15 photographs from the back cover pocket bear handwritten descriptions by Walker. The remaining photographs are labeled and mounted on the added leaves in the book. The volume also includes a bound-in telegram announcing Walker's arrival in Boston in June 1916, 2 maps of Verdun, and a typescript of a poem, The Ambulance Driver by Emory Pottle, dated December 1915. It is a wonderfully personal story of the volunteers in the ambulance unit. Some of the books I presented today fulfill more than one condition for inclusion in our rare book collection. However, not every book will be accepted, even the one that meets all the discussed criteria, because subject and physical shape matter too. I'm stating the obvious here, but it has to be a medical book to fit in the scope of our collection. And it cannot be in poor condition because we do not have any facilities for rare book repair or conservation. All such services will have to be outsourced. There is also a local angle, which may be crucial in selecting a book for inclusion. In recent years, we have begun collecting local materials on the history of medicine, hospitals, medical research and teaching in Pittsburgh. We will have opportunity to look at some materials of local interest in our collection next month, when I will talk about Presbyterian hospital ledgers and other manuscripts in our collection. If you have any questions about items presented today, please contact me by email at gosia@pitt.edu or by phone 412-648-4162. Thank you.